In this video, I'll provide an overview of how to do an outline for your case study report. Now, I always recommend doing an outline first before writing a report so that I can put down all my ideas and organize it. It makes it much easier when I write it out. So I'm going to use case study number 2, Forma, as an example of how to outline my case study. So in the first part, this is my introduction. So it's a brief description of the individual, in this case, Forma, and her family, and the reasons that I chose to do this case, which we shared in discussion board 4. So you can always go back to your discussion boards to see what you wrote. This introduction should only be about a paragraph long, 2 at most if you want to get into more detail about the family, but 1 paragraph is enough. For the second part of the outline, this is what we did in discussion board 8, where we analyzed our case study regarding the financial issues or objectives. After reading the case study on Forma, I wrote down and outlined the issues that she's facing. She has several goals regarding her home and her kids' college funds and her own retirement. And then there are some aspects of her financial situation that's missing, like she doesn't have disability insurance and she doesn't know her net worth. She also needs to update her will, and she needs to work on her money management because she spends more than she receives. With her retirement, she also needs to figure out how she can live comfortably while still supporting her kids going through college. So you'll notice when I outlined these aspects that I identified in her case study, I also pointed out where I can find content that would explain the importance of each piece. So, for instance, lack of disability insurance, Chapter 9 covers why we have to have disability income insurance. Or updating her will, we read about estate planning in Chapter 14 and the importance of it. So when you, in the report, write about the financial issues or objectives, it's not enough to just say she's missing something or needs to do something. We also need to understand why it's important to have these components in our financial planning. It reinforces our learning, but also reminds ourselves why we need to do it for us as well. Then in part 3, these are the suggested financial strategies or solutions to address the problems that I identified in part 2. This is what we did in discussion board 10. So for instance, I would recommend that she track her cash flow so that she can start reducing some of her expenses because she's spending way too much money. That comes from Chapter 2. I'd also recommend that she see a lawyer to update her will. Again, that's from Chapter 14. I can give her some tips on purchasing disability insurance and what coverages and what types. That'll come from Chapter 9. And then in terms of her retirement, which is the most important thing in her financial planning, is to diversify and grow the money that she gets from selling her house. Depending on what she gets from her house, which I would calculate what the potential profit is, part of that would go into a condo, and then she can invest the rest in stocks or mutual funds or bonds or what makes sense for retirement. And then my last strategy has to do with saving college funds for her kids. So I can go online and do some research on how much money is required, but also recognize that her kids could get scholarships or take out student loans for school, and that not the entire burden is all on her because she does have to take care of her own retirement as well. And that can come from Chapters 2 and 4. So you can see that the financial issues or objectives that identified in Part 2 match all the strategies or solutions I offer in Part 3. It doesn't make sense if I list a problem and then don't provide a solution, or provide a solution to a non-existent problem. So good planning and good organizing will help you stay consistent and cohesive in your writing. And then, of course, a brief conclusion that summarizes the importance of personal financial planning as it relates to the strategies for Forma. So you can see we've already done a lot of the work through the discussion boards for parts 1, 2, and 3, and then now it's just writing it out in a cohesive, understandable way. If you choose to work with a partner on this, you are more than welcome to. Just make sure that both of your names are on the assignment for submission and that you both submit on your ends. If you have any questions, just let me know.